What's up, guys? So today's video I'm going to be looking at the upcoming DC films, as I did last month for the Marvel movies. But before I get into that, I'm just going to quickly plug away Febfast again. Link is in the description if you want to go and make a donation to me. But I'm just going to read you here from when I did my Febfast video. I had a little scrolling bit beside me, and if you paused on one of the screens, one of the little slides, it says this. It says the difference you'll make. Your Febfast will enable young people to experience Your Febfast will enable young people experiencing serious disadvantage to access the resources and support they need to lead healthy and fulfilling lives, while building a supportive community where young people are valued, included, and have every opportunity to thrive. Your support will help us reduce the severity and frequency of alcohol, drug, and mental health problems, as well as antisocial and self-harming behaviour in young Australians. So that's sort of what I'm trying to raise money for, raise a little bit of awareness for. I've now gone a full week strong without sugar. So yeah, I have another 3 weeks to go. And I'm starting to feel the want for sugar. However, that being said, my parents did go, like the whole family really, was in shopping the other day, and for whatever reason we had to go down the aisle that all the lollies were in, and while I was looking because they were there and my eyes were open, I didn't really feel the necessity to reach out and grab one, this would be a nice snack. I don't know. I used to have the sweetest tooth ever, and I just lost all interest in it. So I'm starting to feel the good effects. Okay, now into the main video. So we're going to start off with the film that officially released today, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. I am on Screen Rant. The link for this is in the description below as well. As you will see on there, it does say February 7th, 2020. My experience, however, is that films will usually be slated for a Friday release, but actually be released on the Thursday night beforehand, as like the opening night sort of thing. At least the local cinemas that I've been to have done that. They've sort of had the film with like a release date, and then they've made their own business decision to have maybe one showing the night before as like an opening night sort of thing, just particularly for the films that have like a large fandom behind them, just to get all those hardcore fans through, so that the weekend showings can be more for general audiences that are just genuinely eager to see the film, and not for people actively following a particular franchise or not. But the official release date on this website does say February 7th, which is today. A little bit here it says, Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, it says will return, has returned in Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, a team-up superhero movie with a very long title, directed by Kathy Yan and written by Christina Hodson. It also stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress, Rosie Perez as Renee Montoya, and Journey Smollett-Bell as Black Canary. Ella J. Basco is playing a young Cassandra Cain, and Ewan McGregor is playing Black Mask, the movie's villain. Next on this list, Wonder Woman 1984, June 5th of this year. Looking forward to it. After appearing in Batman vs Superman, Gal Gadot reprised her role in the 2017 Wonder Woman film, which became an astounding critical and commercial success, and was sort of the first good DCEU film. Man of Steel really sort of doesn't feel like a DCEU film, because there are like 3 years of a gap between it and Dawn of Justice. That and it, as I've said before, I believe it's basically just a remake of Superman 2, which was the best one in the Christopher Reeves series. But yeah. So of course Warner Brothers decided to fast track a sequel. Patty Jenkins, the director of the 2017 film, returns to direct the sequel based on a script from David Callahan, who wrote Godzilla and The Expendables, and a story Jenkins co-wrote with Jeff Johns. Wonder Woman 1984, as one can tell from the title, takes place in the 80s, during the final days of the Cold War, with Kristen Wiig playing villain Dr. Barbara Minerva / Cheetah, and Pedro Pascal playing fellow bad guy Maxwell Lord. Chris Pine also returns as Steve Trevor, although exactly how to do this is still unexplained. He is in the trailers, so it's kind of like a how did you come back moment, and I think they've done that deliberately to make people want to know how he came back after he quite clearly dies in the first one, and how he's still so young in the 80s when that was supposed to be like the First World War in 1915, 1916, whatever. So there's been at least 70 years there. The Batman, June 25th, 2021. What's that? That's over a year after that last film, Wonder Woman 1984. So Ben Affleck originally signed on to write and direct The Batman, a standalone Batman film set within the DCEU, in addition to reprising his role as Bruce Wayne, Batman. In 2017, however, he chose to remove himself from a creative role and now has officially exited the DCEU. Warner Brothers went looking for a younger actor to replace him as Batman and eventually chose Robert Pattinson. Jeffrey Wright has also been cast as Commissioner Gordon, which makes me wonder what J.K. Simmons' role really was, because I'm pretty sure he was Commissioner Gordon, while Colin Farrell is on board as the Penguin. Cloverfield and Planet of the Apes director Matt Reeves ended up replacing Affleck as writer-director. Reeves threw out the story that Affleck and Jeff Johns co-wrote for the movie and started the script from scratch. Although Reeves is only confirmed to direct the Batman, he's also looking at creating a new Batman trilogy of his own. So depending on how well this Batman film does, we may get another Dark Knight trilogy, although we'll have to see how well that stands up in comparison if we do end up getting to Batman trilogies in the last 2 decades. The Suicide Squad, August 6th, so what's that, 2 months later. David Ayer's Suicide Squad was the first movie that truly expanded the DCEU beyond the core heroes, but it wasn't the critical success that Warner Brothers or audiences expected it would be based on its impressive marketing campaign. I did a film review last month on the Suicide Squad, sort of looking at why it was so hated, and what it really came down to was that the hype that the marketing campaign had created for it had basically meant that Warner Brothers gave full editing to the company that had made the trailer, rather than trusting their director to edit the film the way that he had originally envisaged it, and so it therefore came across as not having a consistent voice of its own. Still, the film was an enormous commercial success, so the studio is planning on releasing a sequel, The Suicide Squad. After Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn was fired by Marvel Studios because of some tweets that he apologised for a fair while back, Warner Brothers wasted little time in recruiting him to write and direct Suicide Squad 2. Obviously, knowing that James Gunn had turned a ragtag team of not necessarily the most heroic types into a groundbreaking and some people's favourite MCU film, at least at the time, I as soon as he becomes free, of course you're going to be like, oh, we've got a ragtag group of not the most heroic people as well. Let's get him in to make that a critical success, because the first one wasn't so much. So it's good business sense on Warner Brothers' part there. It's still not clear what the Suicide Squad's plot will be, but it won't be a complete reboot, as Margot Robbie will return as Harley Quinn. That will be her third film as Harley Quinn, and Joel Kinnaman, Jai Courtney, and Viola Davis will reprise their roles of Rick Flag, Captain Boomerang, and Amanda Waller, respectively. Some of the new names added to the cast in unspecified roles are John Cena, Idris Elba, Nathan Fillion, and Michael Rooker. It's no surprise really that Nathan Fillion and Michael Rooker are in this film. It's being directed by James Gunn, and they are frequent collaborators of his. Michael Rooker played Yondu in the Guardians of the Galaxy films, and there is a Nathan Fillion Easter egg in Guardians Volume 2 when Ego's plant thing is expanding over that town. It sort of stops just in front of the cinema, and if you are able to pause at the right moment, you can actually see posters on the front of it showing a new Simon Williams film, Simon Williams being Wonder Man in Marvel Comics. Then we've got December 22nd of 2021 is Black Adam. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will be making his debut as Teth Adam in Black Adam, based on a script from his longtime collaborator. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that guy's last name. It has 5 consonants before the first vowel, and it's only 8 letters long, so I'm not even going to try. There are some people out there with some difficult names, and I'm not going to try and pronounce them, because I have been a victim of having an incorrectly pronounced last name, as well as an incorrectly pronounced first name as well. That just seems to be how our family goes. But the guy who also directed Jungle Cruise is going to helm the project. It's another film that The Rock's in. Black Adam was originally planned to make his movie debut in Shazam, but it was eventually decided to save that for his own solo film, which could go to hurt it. I think the thing that Marvel does really well, obviously Phase 1 is a complete exception of this, because you had to introduce the characters, and it makes sense to introduce them in their own ones, but there were Easter eggs for Captain America in Iron Man 2. There was references to the upcoming Thor film in Iron Man 2 as well. And I think even if it was just a post-credit scene of Teth Adam doing literally anything in order to help set up what his solo film would be about, only had to be a minute long, and then I think that would have made some nice hype. Obviously, what I think they're getting at here is that he was planned to be the villain in the Shazam film, and they decided to save that for after his film, which makes sense. So Johnston's Black Adam will be the more modern anti-hero rendition of the character, instead of a straight-up villain, and is confirmed to introduce the Justice League of America to the DCEU. Justice Society of America, which tells me that we're going a little bit back in time for this. April 1st, 2022, we get Shazam 2. No, it's not an April Fool's joke. Shazam 2 is on the way in 2022. It's no surprise, as Shazam was both a critical and commercial hit, and fans clearly want more of Zachary Levi's childish superhero. Plot details haven't been released, and neither has additional casting, as the movie was only announced at the end of 2019. Still, one assumes all the major cast members will return to their roles. So pretty much any of the kids, like any and all of the kid will return, as well as potentially having The Rock appear. Now, this list does have some animated films on its list. So far, we've just been lucky to only be getting DCEU films. But DC Super Pets is an animated movie from Jared Stern, part of the Lego Batman movie, and thus a more family-focused film than many on this slate. DC Super Pets will presumably follow Crypto the Super Dog, Ace the Bat Hound, and various other animal sidekicks of Justice League members, likely with an all-star cast. While this will be an animated film and not part of the DCEU main narrative, it's still a key DC release and represents the diversification of the DC film's output going forward. July 1st of 2022, we will get the Ezra Miller Flash film. So obviously, as I just said, returning as the Flash, Ezra Miller's film has been in development for what seems like forever and has gone through directors at a speed even Barry Allen would admire. Thankfully, with its anti-machete now at the helm, things actually appear to be moving forward, with a summer 2022 release date being announced in December 2019. Plot and casting details are still scarce at the moment, although elements of the Flashpoint comic arc will come into play. Presumably, that will also be the film where he goes back in time to tell Bruce Wayne that he was right and they need to set up the Justice League. Hopefully to bring eventually the Justice League 2 with Darkseid as teased in the first Justice League film. December 16, 2022, Aquaman 2. One of the most anticipated DC movies in the works is Aquaman 2, which comes at the heels of James Wan Aquaman, earning more than $1.14 billion at the worldwide box office. Aquaman 2 is currently being written by David Leslie Johnson Goldrick, who co-wrote the first movie. One is also on board to return as director. Peter Safran's returning to produce. Jason Momoa is of course reprising his role as Arthur Curry, and both Mera and Orm are expected to come back as well. On top of this, there is a online petition to get Amber Heard removed from this film due to the domestic abuse lawsuit between her and her ex-husband Johnny Depp. The irony being that both of them are currently employed by Warner Brothers, Amber Heard in the DCEU as Mera and Johnny Depp as Grindelwald in the Fantastic Beast films. And so Warner Brothers is kind of stuck, like, do we let them go? Do we keep them? Do we believe the claims? Do we ignore them? What do we do? Because personally, I think Mera was one of my favorite parts of Aquaman, and even though it's unconventional casting, I do like Johnny Depp as Grindelwald. I think he brings just enough of that crazy eccentric that he's so known for to that character to make him very believable as, like, slightly unhinged dark wizard, and it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's really good casting. Now these next ones don't have release dates, they have just been announced. So a Batgirl movie wasn't on Warner Brothers DCEU slate until former Avengers director Joss Whedon talked to the studio about wanting to make that film. Whedon reportedly wanted to adapt the $1 million debut of Batgirl, but he simply couldn't make it work, so he exited the project as both writer and director in February 2018, almost 1 year after signing on to the film. Warner Brothers is looking for a female director to replace Whedon. Christina Hodson, the screenwriter behind Birds of Prey, is also penning the script for Batgirl. So it's out, and we can go see Birds of Prey, see how well that's going, and that could potentially, depending on how well it does, could potentially lead us to a solo Batgirl film in the DCEU, which would be cool. Green Lantern Corps. Warner Brothers originally attempted to launch a cinematic universe with Martin Campbell's Green Lantern in 2011, starring Ryan Reynolds. Yes, back in 2011. The film was a critical and commercial failure, which is why DC is looking to reboot the film and a team within the DCEU with Green Lantern Corps. Jeff Johns, who wrote a 9-year run of Green Lantern comics, will write and produce the movie. Mission Impossible Fallout director Christopher McQuarrie is rumored to be Warner Brothers' favourite choice to direct, and McQuarrie has said he is open to coming on board for the right story, but no one's officially attached to direct right now. While the film was originally given a July 2020 release date, it's no longer slated to be released on that date. It should also be featuring not just Hal Jordan, but Jon Stewart, Kyle Rayner, a bunch of the other Earth-based Green Lanterns, and so it'll be interesting to see what the actual story is. As long as they don't make the super suits animated, they've got to be green, but not animated. Justice League Dark, one of the strangest properties that Warner Brothers is trying to get off the ground, is Justice League Dark, based on the comic book team of the same name that protects the world from magical and supernatural forces. Guillermo del Toro and Doug Liman were both previously attached to direct the film, which was one titled Dark Universe Justice League Dark. Which was one titled Justice League. Start that again. Which was once titled Dark Universe. Justice League Dark may not be getting the most attention at the moment, but it's something that Warner Brothers is actively trying to get made. I have a feeling the reason they didn't call it Dark Universe is because that's what Universal had decided to call their shared universe when they made The Mummy, and then promptly opted out of making a shared universe in favour of just remaking some solo films. I still stand by the fact that I think, given the right sort of starting point, I think Dark Universe still could be a pretty good shared universe with like the Wolfman and Dracula, the Invisible Man, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Phantom of the Opera, Creature from Black Lagoon, the Mummy, all those characters. It'd be really cool to see them all come together. The New Gods, DC's New Gods movie, is set to be directed by Ava DuVernay, who directed A Wrinkle in Time, who will also co-write the script alongside acclaimed comics writers Tom King. There's been no official casting announced and a release timetable has been established yet. However, DuVernay did confirm that Darkseid will be the primary villain and will be accompanied by the Furies, an extremely loyal group of female warriors, effectively bringing DC's Eternals against DC's Thanos and Blackwater. So yeah, that's something to be looking out for. The Trench, given Aquaman's success and extensive world building, an Aquaman spin-off called The Trench about the titular monsters is being developed by Warner Brothers, which would cost considerably less than a tentpole movie and delve more into the horror aspects that were explored in the Trench sequence. If it ultimately happens, one has promised that it won't affect other mainline DC films in development. This is evident by Aquaman 2 already being dated by Warner Brothers. So this is literally just going to be a spin-off focusing on the Trench, not necessarily take place in any particular given time. It's just going to sort of be a story about the Trench. So what the actual storyline would be there, I don't know. Anything I can really think of is what happened after the fall of Atlan and the sinking of Atlantis, and how the different kingdoms sort of separated. Obviously following sort of the Trench King and the Trench monsters in their dive into the more animalistic creatures that we see them as. That'd be kind of cool. Every other DC movie in development. In addition to all the movies on Warner Brothers' official DCEU slate, there are at least a dozen other projects in various stages of development, some of which are connected to the DCEU and some that aren't. The Lego Batman movie director Chris McKay is directing Nightwing, based on a story and script from Bill DeBook, who I'm guessing wrote, since it's a story and script there, Ozark. However, that film may not release for several more years, since McKay was recently hired to direct Dungeons & Dragons for Paramount Pictures, which is due out in theatres in 2021. There's also a Supergirl movie in development from 22 Jump Street writer Oren Uziel. Instead of turning to helm Suicide Squad 2, David Ayer might be adapting Gotham City Sirens from a script by Geneva Dwyer-Robertson, who wrote Tomb Raider, I'm guessing that's the most recent one, and Captain Marvel, although the project is currently paused. I was confused about that when it was originally announced, because they had announced that, and they announced the Birds of Prey film, and I heard a report that potentially they were the same film, because Margot Robbie was reprising her role as Harley Quinn. Obviously, Birds of Prey has Harley Quinn in it when she's actually a Gotham City Siren, so it remains to be seen whether or not Gotham City Sirens actually comes through and gives us Catwoman and Poison Ivy set in the DCEU. Would be cool as well. That's just one of several projects that Margot Robbie has in development for Harley Quinn. She'll also potentially reprise her role in Harley Quinn and the Joker, and an untitled Harley Quinn movie, which just kind of says to me that DC sort of found that Harley Quinn was like the most loved part of Suicide Squad, decided to latch onto that and see how much money they could milk out of that. Yes, she's good, but you have other characters, DC. You don't need to make everything have Harley Quinn in it. Let Margot Robbie go and do other films as well, because she's great in everything she's in. However, on those two films, the Harley Quinn and Joker film and the untitled Harley Quinn movie, there's no guarantee that either project will be given the green light. There's also the long dormant Cyborg movie starring Ray Fisher that is reportedly still happening. As for Lobo, Wonder Woman scribe Jason Fuchs is rewriting the screenplay, with Warner Bros. Eyeing Michael Bay to direct, meaning that Lobo is going to be a film full of explosions due to Michael Bay's mutant ability to just cause explosions unconsciously. It's a sort of a running joke with me and some of my friends where if we're watching a movie and for no reason at all explosions go off in a particular scene, where, you know, the scene still would have been good without explosions, that it was just that Michael Bay was walking past the set at that particular time. Because obviously Michael Bay is best known for his Transformers films, and he was a producer on the Ninja Turtles films, and they're both full of explosions. Finally, Warner Bros. Is reportedly developing Justice League 2 and Man of Steel 2, though those two have basically been put on ice for now. Plus, there's the Booster Gold movie from Arrowverse co-creator Greg Berlanti that has been in development for several years, and a Black Hawk movie that was produced and possibly directed by Steven Spielberg. The Booster Gold movie, I had heard that Nathan Fillion had sort of expressed some interest in that when it was like first announced. He's now obviously in the Suicide Squad, so we'll just have to wait to see who he's actually playing. If it turns out he's playing Booster Gold, then my money is on the Booster Gold film sort of, you know, being put forward, because that film, I don't see how the Suicide Squad is going to fail at all. I don't see how it's going to happen. So along with all of those films which are Warner Bros. Live action DC films, Warner Bros. Animation has a few DC projects currently in development, currently set for some time in 2020 are Superman Red Sun, Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, and Superman Man of Tomorrow. DC announces new animated movies all the time, so one assumes this slate will expand sooner rather than later. And yeah, that makes sense. DC basically has an animated shared universe as well, with all of its animated films. And yeah, if you're looking for a superhero film to watch in between all of these theatrical releases, there are some really good ones out there. Obviously, most notably was The Killing Joke, which was an absolute phenomena. I will admit to not having actually seen it myself, and I'm actively trying to fix that, because it's it really is sort of like a must-see for superhero fans. Anyway, that's all I've got for this video. If you did enjoy it, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you want to see more videos from me and be alerted when they are uploaded. Let me know what film from this slate you're looking forward to the most in the description down below, or what film you would like to see come from DC. And yeah, until next time, guys, keep your head screwed on.